Chelonian war against humans rages on in the year 5665. The Inner Planets Music Festival is taking place in the year 2112. The 812 is leaving Chollywood in the year 1993. The Doctor and Benny arrive on what seems to be the planet Sacra. As the Doctor fumbles about to find the Fortean Flicker, Shadoka, a mercenary from the future, is reawoken from his cryogenic sleep, itching to find the highest science. The highest science is what unites them and many cultures and civilizations who propel the myth of the highest science. But what really is the highest science, and who is it being engineered for? Hello, and welcome to Two Broad and Two Deep, the Doctor Who podcast where we talk about the Virgin New Adventures starting from Time 1 Genesis all the way through to the dying days. As always, I am joined by Alasdair.
Hello.
Hello, Alasdair. And also, we have a special guest. We have Ross Van Gogh from the Doctor Who Society of Glasgow.
Hello.
Who we see down the pub quite a lot, and he quite likes the Virgin New Adventures. So, welcome to you, Ross.
Welcome. It's nice to be here at long last.
I guess with that, what was your first foray into the New Adventures? Was that for you, Doctor Who, essentially kind of grown up, or?
My first time encountering the new Virgin New Who adventures was around 20 years ago. They were given to me by a friend of mine, Bobby. Hello, if you're listening. They were Transit and Return of the Living Dad, which were a mixed bunch. Transit being not so good, and Return of the Living Dad being very good.
That's quite a mix.
And later on, I was given Lung Barrow, which, from what I understand, is a very rare and precious book. So I was lucky to get that.
Somebody lent you Lung Barrow? Now that's a friend.
Oh yeah. His response about Lung Barrow was, I couldn't make hide nor hair of this, but perhaps you'll enjoy it. So that was my first encounter. This was before the new series came back, and we were still in the wilderness years, so we were grateful for everything we could get. When we had to deal with the BBV stuff, it is a bad replacement. Before the show came back, I was rather cynical about it, being like, oh, this is probably going to suck.
It's an interesting time for them to go 40 back into the Long Barrow days and Transit to get your juices flowing for new Doctor Who, perhaps. But we, 20 years later, are still talking about the Virgin New Adventures. This time, it's The Highest Science by some author. I don't know who.
Some guy.
I'm not going to give him credence of who they are. My copy doesn't have a name on it. It's conveniently scratched out. So who can say who wrote this novel? Now, this is my first time reading The Highest Science. I've encountered the work of this writer before and on the TV and Sarah Jane Adventure stuff. And it was interesting going to the written prose for this, but I don't know if, Alasdair, what was your experience? Was this the first time, or did you catch it back in the day with this?
This was my first time around, and spoiler alert, this will be my last time around as well. I will not be revisiting this.
Oh, interesting.
So you don't love it? It's not your favourite thing ever?
No.
You're not clamouring at the bit for this unknown author's other work?
No, if I want to read more stuff like this, I'll look at Douglas Adams or H.P. Lovecraft or obviously he was trying to copy rather than this person. Just
Ross, this is your first time as well with The Highest Science?
My first ever, and I concur. It's like if I go the whole rest of my life, if I live another 100 years and I never encounter it again, I will not cry about it.
Well, this is it's very interesting because I, to an extent, maybe agree, not to the full whole hog, but things like the style of Douglas Adams is one thing that I also noticed. It wasn't just that though; it was the style of Douglas Adams in terms of like humour, attempted humour, but sometimes the characterisation of Eric Sayward, where everyone hates each other in certain circles and have violent disagreements, which it could be a fun combination if it worked. But what I found interesting from your reactions was basically comparing that to what it was at the time, because I went through, as I usually do, some lovely Doctor Who magazines, different fanzines. Unfortunately, the Paisley pattern did not cover it. Kenny Smith must have been on holiday or something. But I did go through Doctor Who magazine 199, and there's two reviews there, and they're both singing the highest praise of the highest science, and how it's such a well-structured book with original characters and plotting. And the same with the time-space visualizer, who says it's maybe the best possible new adventure we've had so far, and how it harks back to the more traditional, fun style adventures of Doctor Who. So this seemed to be at the time quite a refreshing book, because it wasn't refreshing in terms of a new story. It was a retread of old times, I think. And for me, that I can understand, I can appreciate after going through the past 10 books. But I've also had experiences of just watching DVDs of old Doctor Who if I wanted to have those nice old experiences. So going to this one, I was like, yeah, it's fine. It's romping along, and that's what it was to me. So yeah, it's my first time, and I'm also nonplussed if it's my last.
Drugs are bad, and swearing, and Poundland Sontarans.
Oh yeah. Well, I guess I'm trying to think where best to maybe start off. I guess the characters are basically the main thrust of it, and was, to be honest, the main thing throwing me off for the beginning, because there were so many just being suddenly introduced. Were there any particular ones? We've got, the Chelonians, we've got Shelducker and his motley crew, the 812s, the Hashheeds who are coming to do a concert somewhere in space. There's a lot happening at the beginning of this and throughout to try and even understand who's who. How did we find that, of having to deal with so many characters?
Kind of felt like a pre-existing story which they had to graft the Doctor into.
There were some nice ideas in there, but they were just, it felt first draft a lot of the times. Like the Chelonians could have been very, very funny.
Yeah.
They were vaguely Monty Python-like, and if they'd really went into that could have been a lot of fun. But each time you thought they were going somewhere, we're going to cut somewhere else. I mean, the bastard love child of the Centaurans and the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, as written by Monty Python, should have been funny. It should have been memorable. As it stands, they were there.
Well, I think that they're the more funnier part of the book, for me at least, in that they are consistently maybe trying to do a wee bit of jokes here and there, with some of them wanting to do gardening and talk about their pension, and how over the top they can be in this idea of masculinity and such. But there were other aspects that I thought could have been funnier as well, like the whole thing is about, what's it called again? Is it the Foley and
40 and Flicker
even? What was the slip? Because I was say slip as well, and I can't remember where that's from. The 40 something slip.
If we're talking Freudian, it was basically the impossibility hyperdrive, or whatever it was called, from Douglas Adams. It was it wasn't even his idea.
No, it was the kind of nakedly that idea, and at least Douglas Adams used it. When in this book we've got, I think there's an example of it being used by establishing all these characters on the planet Sakrat to get there in the first place, and there's a zany wee one at the end of I want to see some Brazilian phone books and fish flying around the room. And that's a fun little usage of it, but it's not throughout the whole thing. It's a threat, but it's never really utilised or made a threat throughout the book, which is frustrating.
It's a plot device, not even trying to pretend it's something else. It is nakedly a plot device.
Yeah.
True.
You touched about masculinity there of the Colonians, and given what we know about the man that might have written this book, the hermaphrodite aliens that switch between genders was less than comfortable.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think I see what you're trying to do. I think it might be well intentioned, but missed.
Well, I don't know if I would say it was well intentioned or more so like part of what was viewed as a joke at the time. Like things like this idea of masculine folk having like feminine qualities or things like that. Especially in kind of 1990s sort of gay circles, it feels like the thing you'd see in Gimme Gimme Gimme, or things that, are there to be a sort of shock value to think, you can't possibly have any masculine person with feminine qualities in any way. And especially for this author, it feels like something that that idea has clung on to him and people like him, to the point that he views anyone who can't take such a joke like this, like, you know, the Chelonians have been mothers whilst having masculine names and or pronouns and things like that. Like, that's all it is to him, is like a joke.
Agreed.
And if you can't take that joke, then he takes issue with you. Whilst, you know, gender politics has considerably evolved since then. I don't see it, you know, as a mal-intended thing, but it does leave a bit of a sort of, you know, bitter taste reading it these days from an author who has been so horrible to trans people.
True, yeah. When I was reading through it, if I didn't know what I knew about the author, I'd be like, oh, this would be a good way for if you were an invading species. This would be a good way to replenish your army, much like Centaurans just clone themselves. But it didn't really land for me.
One thing, I'll try and give something positive here about some characterization. I thought the characterization of the Doctor and Benny was great. I really enjoyed how light-hearted the Doctor was. He felt very in the spirit of the Seventh Doctor, in a lot of ways, with a lot of his actions. The silly thing where who's he trying to pretend to be? Is it Norman Brown?
Yes.
The Southwest man. That was lovely. There's little moments where I can visualise this character very well, and the same with Benny. Like, she has great moments to be able to actually use her skills and expertise, especially in archaeology.
I'm going to agree with you in the Doctor, especially the point where he sits down and goes "shan't" with menace. I think it's the first time "shant's" ever been used with menace. But Benny bothered me in this one.
Oh, right.
We're going to separate her from the Doctor, wipe her memory, and she's not going to know who she is. Did I not read this in the last book? Is this not like her third Benny adventure, and 2/3 of the time she's had her mind wiped? What is she, the 8th Doctor?
Yeah.
I mean, once she got back with the Doctor and he reset her memory, that was fun. But it took an awful long time to get there. And
yeah, that was my weakest part of it with her, was her being stuck with those hash heads, like jumping about, drinking more bubble shake. Yeah, but when she was herself, she was quite literally herself. She was being very horritive in a lot of ways. Like in that beginning scene in the bar, drinking some cocktail with M3, I think it was, which I'm going to say is an Ambassadors of Death callback. I'm just good. I wouldn't be surprised.
I love the fact that she went out for a takeaway. The Doctor didn't have beer, so she went to a takeaway. It was like perfect, absolutely perfect. That was nice characterization. I'll give you that one. But
that thing you mentioned about her getting her memory back as well, was an odd one because the Doctor's suddenly now wearing Hartnell's blue ring to kind of wave in front of her to be like, oh, remember who you are. And I don't think anyone believed it back when it happened in Volcano, in the Daleks Master Plan. And I don't think it kind of worked here. Like it was a bit of a stretch to use that plot device.
It was
as welcome as it is as a callback. But yeah, outside of that, I did think Benny, she did have a bit more to do, even when she wasn't herself, which was nice because it wasn't at least her being some form of like murderous weapon like in transit, trying to blow up kids and such with their own grenades. I enjoyed her slow descent into kind of forgetfulness with Bubble Shake, and like I thought that was okay. I didn't think it was. I don't think they should have done it with this novel. It should have happened a few books time so we can space out all of this. But yeah.
Well, speaking of spaced out, I shared Benny's frustration at not being able to work out which one of our companions was who, because I couldn't discern any individual personality amongst the three of them. It was like
I think they were trying to with like some catchphrases, like the one I want to say it was Malassie who was saying "clever boy" as a catchphrase, and then he disappears. I can't tell you the difference between Sendai and Rodamonte. Like
it was when they were fighting over their possessions to burn things in the fire. It was like, yeah, I've seen that episode of Red Dwarf as well. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they were just a bunch of hash eats. I was nonplussed about them. I think this is the general issue, though, is that there are too many characters like that could just be less of, like them, like the 812s, whereas there's two characters that side with the Doctor.
Hazel
like,
and
we don't need to.
Yeah, I mean, they were fine. I liked them. It was controversially the 812s was the strongest idea in the whole book, and he practically ignored it for the duration.
I thought it was the weakest. I thought because there was like the idea is great of going in fact to the point that he uses it for his Doctor Who episodes with Planet of the Dead, but like you say, nothing was used about it. It felt just very superfluous to essentially have some humanoid aspect that we could relate to from the 1990s compared to, say, future space people who hate each other, Chelonians, and some future like mad band. It didn't feel used in any way, and the only time it was to be cannon fodder for others to be shot at or made hostage or whatever. Like, it just didn't feel useful in any way for this.
Yeah, or to be a bad leader with a salesman.
That was the best title gag.
Were we meant to be upset when he gets shot? I like the chapter title for that, but yes, but he obviously didn't know what to do with them, because at the end they just got frozen and walked away. Maybe one day I'll fix this. One day I will be back.
I mean, there's a big difference between leaving, Susan with one shoe left on a bank in like in the 22nd century or whatever, and another to just freeze your conclusion or denouement to be able to be concluded. Like, that was maybe, from a writing and story point of view, one of the worst resolutions to tying up loose ends, because you just literally leave a loose end and it's going to fray away. And I don't know how that left a good impression on anyone to think he can conclude all that he wants, because it ties back into what we were saying. There's too many characters to be able to conclude, and if you're doing the scud all with them, how you find it so hard to just end this novel?
Things though, you wonder why the Doctor doesn't do that more often. When you think that, well, you're immortal and you have a time machine. I'll just get round to defeating the Daleks later.
I mean, well, yeah, that's one of the key flaws in storytelling in Doctor Who, is that we are here to hear a story and for it to conclude with the bad guys getting beaten, the Doctor saving the day, and we all go off in the TARDIS a bit happier that the world's a bit brighter. But that just leaves the door open to messiness and chaos, and this it more so on the fault of the writer of doing that rather than the world building, but in its own right. But like, I genuinely don't know why you couldn't, as a writer, resolve this.
But even the world building, I'm still confused as to what sodden world they were on. Was it Sakura? Was it Jet Li's world? Was it Hogsmeade? Was it... Where were we? Does anyone actually know?
We were on Sakura. I think we were on Sakura. But we did jump about.
But it was disguised as
near the
Sakura.
end.
Oh.
I was just imagining some generic quarry.
Yeah, I mean, so was the cover artist. It's very the most generic quarry TM that you can find. Wouldn't look at a place in Time in the Rani.
Also, that cover really upset me.
For why?
The Killorians are on 2 feet in that cover. All the way through, they keep making notion of the fact that they walk on all 4 legs. That's them in 2 legs. They're flipping bipeds in that cover. And this has upset me more than is rational.
I mean, what didn't upset me, but what perplexed me is the portrait of the Doctor on the front, in what is the least looking like Sylvester McCoy I have seen on maybe any cover, I think.
Oh, wait till you get to the left-handed hummingbird.
Like, he looks a bit like Jules Holland on this one.
Well, now you say it.
He looks like the 9th Doctor cosplaying as the 7th.
Yeah, I can see it. He ain't Sylvester McCoy. I mean, it's a very well painted cover in terms of how the body is, the shading.
Oh.
I quite like that sort of it, but it's just the face doesn't.
He does look a bit more chiseled in that.
Yeah, he's very sort of like, is it Morgan? He's Morgan in that one. As you cool kids say.
Aye.
But yeah,
just when you say,
oh yes, we say that.
just when you say that there, Ross, the chiseled thing, it was him watching the holovid or whatever it was about the action hero and relating to him.
Ah.
What?
Yes. I mean, if it was the Doctor of this cover, he could, with his lovely chiseled face. You can.
That I would give him, but it was.
But yeah, that's the thing as well within this novel. Like you mentioned there about the show being shown on the TV. There's a lot of wee references like that throughout it. Like when is it Witcher, the leader of the 812s, and he's being told by a doctor what is happening and what really is going down, and he's like, it's like some rubbish that's on after grandstand.
Yeah, I know it's that one.
I was like, right, come on here. Like, we know what we're reading.
Well, there was one turn of phrase I really liked. What was it? Like BBC Two in a snowy night. That was a lovely visual. That I really liked. But once again, that probably bypassed Anthony entirely.
I think it might have.
Aye. It's readers of a certain age. I'm aware I'm a middle-aged man. Don't worry.
Back when there was only 4 channels.
At the risk of being my father, I can mind when there was 3.
Well,
sorry.
Talking of other references, and indeed talking of Time in the Rani, the fact that we have the Doctor saying once again, "Where are we? Who am I? And who are you?"
Oh yes.
I was like, "Oh, come on!" Like, I mean, we're suffering enough right now because for anyone listening, we are in the interim week between last the Interstellar Song Contest and Wish World in season 2 of Doctor Who. We are facing the return of the Rani, and we are. I watched Time in the Rani last night out of sheer comfort.
Oh dear.
It gave me some comfort at least compared to what we currently have.
It's the fact that we've got the finale incoming, we've got 2 Ranis, Mel's coming back, and the Doctor. Is Russell T Davies trying to recreate Time in the Rani? And if so, why?
Because
I love the 7th Doctor, you know I do.
Now, everyone goes mad about Time in the Rani, and yeah, fair enough. But episode 1, it's kind of like when people say this with the Space Museum, episode 1 is brilliant and the rest isn't as good. Time in the Rani episode 1 is brilliant. The rest not so much. Like, something that I could imagine on BBC Two on a snowy night is Time in the Rani episode 1, because it's a perfect panto affair. And I hope that's maybe what Gareth Roberts is also trying to aspire for, not just to have Douglas Adams style writing, but also Pip and Jane Baker style writing, by having this rephrasing quote of Time in the Rani when he wakes up in a Cholonian tank. I appreciated the Time in the Rani reference.
Right. It's one of the first episodes I remember watching as a child, actually on television. And somehow I stuck around for the next episode. So, you know, I was a child though, not very discerning. So,
I really quite enjoyed it up until the point where the Rani started cosplaying Mel. That's when it lost me.
Oh, I know. I love that. I absolutely love that. I want that to be happening again. I want Mrs. Flood to be cosplaying as old Mel. Like, I want Anita Dobson face change,
Well, that's
and
the
all
other
of
thing.
that.
She has been cosplaying as other companions for the last 2 years, and we all missed it. She's been doing Romana, she's been doing Clara. Apparently there's a whole ton of them that I've just not seen. And I'm torn between that's really quite clever and subtle to it's still the sodden Rani.
And the issue is that Anita Dobson is no Kate O'Mara. Like,
No.
Kate O'Mara had such wonderful, sultry, authoritative sort of tone to her when she wasn't Mel. In that episode, Anita Dobson can't do that. Like, even Russell T Davies is. So this has become the Time in the Rani podcast now. This is not. This is how much we enjoy or find interesting things to discuss in the highest science. Is that we're more interested to talk about Time in the Rani.
That's not a damning indictment.
But here's the thing for me though. For years and years, it's been a recurring conspiracy theory. Any mysterious female character appears, oh, I bet you it's the Rani. And Russell T Davies is going, I'll see you that and raise you. No, fair play to Russell T Davies for doing this. He's taken the ultimate fan theory and made it fact. We can no longer go, oh, I bet it's the Rani, because it already is.
Yep, that's true. That's one's ticked off the box at last.
Yeah.
That wasn't the biggest. I still had issues with it, but that wasn't the biggest issues I had with the Interstellar Song Contest.
You didn't love it then?
Maybe not. One thing I did love was talking about the highest science again. Take us back, veering back onto.
Oh, I've heard of this. Yeah,
onto course. Was the idea of your man Shatulka kind of going on quite a cut-thrust way to get to what he wants, and albeit getting foiled by the centre of the city and what the highest science ultimately means, but he still is in control of his own death and his own destiny, like to the very end. Because a lot of the time it could just be like this generic character, he's a villain, he's cutting around, and you foil him and he's like, oh, that's not what I wanted to do. But even when he's foiled, he manages to control what he does by trying to kill everyone when he dies. I quite liked that aspect of him. I imagined him actually like Orsini and was it Orsini in Revelation of the Daleks, and like not in his character, because he's not like him. He's much more cutthroat. He's much more ruthless, but physically how he looked. Like he just seemed like a sort of wild, weary mercenary who was much more cutthroat than anyone, but he was very calm about it. He was still very professional about it throughout. He was very, very well mannered to the Doctor and others throughout it, as he was aging people up or shooting Witcher in the chest and such.
Just because you're a bad guy doesn't mean you have to be an impolite bad guy.
True.
There's that. And I was actually kind of on his side when he shot Witcher. I was like, yep, that'll do it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, he was very annoying.
Even the Doctor didn't seem to make too much of a fuss about it.
Nah.
But my problem was just with that name, though. I kept picturing him as Henry Cavill. And that was not how he was acting at all.
No. The issue, I think he died too early. Like, yes, he is annoying. Yes, he was doing Scuddle throughout this book. But I think he should have died later and should have been much more of an obstruction within the plot. Because it ties back into what I was saying about the 812s. Like, they don't have much to do. They just literally are meant to sit there and be a sitting duck, ready to either get shot at or taken away or whatever. And he could have been more, like, obtrusive or meddlesome in some way by not believing, like him being the non-believer that he's on another planet. There could have been a whole sort of mini civilization set up of like him trying to, because he hints at that, saying like, yep, we just have to all kind of settle down, we're all in cavemen style days, these people are going to be the reproducing, all of that. Yeah, I felt like
I was very
could...
rimmer.
Yeah, true.
It was, for me, what you're saying is absolutely right. It was like, look, here's a good idea. Look at my good idea. Admire my good idea. I'm putting my good idea over here now. You'll never see it again.
Yep. And that just kept happening.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, and that like the bar scene's very nice. That guy's in the bar, being the most boring man to talk to Benny, and then he's kind of naturally he's dropped because he needs to go to somewhere else, but it happens throughout of people having good ideas, like, or even kind of retroactively trying to add good ideas, like is it Postine, who is just generic thug who's been woken up in cryosphere, and we then, as she dies, get a big blurb of backstory to make us feel something that she is dying. I was like, you could have done that when she was in like cryogenically frozen, and we would care a bit more instead of just going, oh, it's just generic cannon fodder again. Like,
but once again, the idea of a character that's so violent they keep attacking people randomly could have been funny. Kato in the Pink Panther films, for example, that's forever attacking Inspector Clouseau. It could have been that. It's, this person's going to fire a gun, let's just make sure she's pointed the right way. There was potential there, but she kept getting knocked out whenever she was looking to be even remotely dangerous. It was... Yeah.
How did you find the idea, the myth of the highest science as a concept? Because it talks about, is it Gustav Ernst and how he wrote about it in his journals and how there's myths of it around different planets and such. How do you feel the concept was sold about the highest science and ultimately the twist of it being a ploy to try and trap, at least in the very much in this instance, using that as a ploy to trap Shiroka?
As you were saying earlier, it did feel like someone wanted to incorporate some Lovecraftian themes of advanced technology being actually it's just what we think is magic is actually just advanced alien technology. and it kind of missed the mark for me.
I'm quite envious of your certainty about what the highest science is, Anthony, because I'm still none the flimming wiser having read the damn book.
I'm understanding of it in the context of it being used as a trap in this story, trying to go through this city to try and lure some conspiracy theorist into. It's a neat idea. It's an interesting idea. It's showing the power of a corporation that's wanting to make sure that it gets its product back through the horror planet. To go to such extensive lengths as to try and create this fake version of the highest science to lure that person in. I quite like that because it didn't necessarily make it to be this is 100% legit. We have found the highest science. We've found godlike powers beyond the realm known to man that we think to be magic and such. It was more so using the trappings of that to lure Shadoka in to get their technology.
Now, weirdly, I didn't enjoy the idea in this book very much, but I absolutely loved it in the Pandorica Opens. Because now I think about it, it's the same bloody plot.
Yeah, actually. It's essentially, the same except replace the Doctor with Shadoka in this, I would say, yeah.
And there's even Calorians in the Pandorica Opens.
There are, yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Oh,
and I think there's actually quite a few ideas that Stephen Moffat does pull from it as well. The two guards in the place who are these sort of sexless clones, they, when they fail, melt into a puddle, kind of like the gangers. And I was feeling that was kind of one of the parallels as well for Moffat stuff, because we do know he loves to pick up ideas from these novels and the EDAs as well.
Those two androids were actually one of the few bits where I actually laughed quite hard when they started reading the phone book backwards and forwards trying to make sense of what was going on. That I enjoyed. See if we'd had that kind of level all the way through, it would be a different story.
Then the Doctor turning the book upside down. It was Which
was very McCoy.
Good bits. Yeah.
I like the part with the Chelonian soldier saying, "Oh, he'd rather have been a gardener." That was quite sweet in its way.
Yeah, like there's good humour, and this is the thing. The writing of it is sound. I think. I mean, I struggled to start the novel because just of that idea of like trying to get introduced to umpteen different splinters of space and time, and I just was like, I cannot be bothered after what we've dealt with transit. We were all jumping around different stations at different times every second page. I was like, I cannot deal with that. But after I got through that and I got into the book itself, it was quite a breeze to get through in terms of how it was written. It was quite easy and accessible. The story itself isn't too demanding, apart from maybe trying to, I guess, with Alasdair, like you say, trying to comprehend the usage of the highest science rather than the highest science itself as a concept in this novel could have been more clear in terms of what it was being used for, and that could have been maybe something to have worked out before and advancing, like say if the Doctor saw just more signs that this is a fake old society or something like that, perhaps that could have helped. Or Benny even, because she could identify things to say, I don't recognise that, and that's funny, that's from 1,000 years on this planet instead, not that. Something like that could have worked as well to help signpost that more, I think. And like you say with the writing, there can be good ideas that sometimes you don't need a lot of pages to do. There's the one about the Doctor trying to get out of the Chelonian's grasp, and he says there's a secret weapon that the humans have and I know how to get it, and they say, oh, what's the weapon? And they say it's diplomacy, and they're like, this diplomacy, how do we use it and how do we shoot it, and da, da, da. It's like, hey, it's a very fun, very on the nose like take on militarism, but it was a very fun thing that he had to then try and come up with a literal weapon of diplomacy. I quite like that. The one part I wasn't sure about was, you see, bubble shake.
Oh,
Yeah, how did you find that as a concept and its usage here?
so speaking of bullshit, I went, because it said it was made by the Joseph Robinson Corporation. I went through longer than I should have done to see if this was a real company, like this was a play on something. There is a company called Joseph Robinson Company, but it's a fish company, so I doubt it's a reference to anything.
Joseph Robinson, yeah. It might be an in-joke in some way, perhaps. Might be someone known at Virgin or on Doctor Who circles at the time.
I think the bubble shock stuff actually plays better now than it did back in the day, since we're now properly rolling out diet medication. All those Impex and Manjaros and such like. And
yeah.
And for the record, they are not fun. If you're diabetic, they'll try and give them to you at every opportunity, and they are not for the faint-hearted.
Yeah, although it's bubble shake, not because bubble shock is the one he uses in Sarah Jane Adventures. Because once again, he just takes his old ideas and uses them wherever he can.
They've rebranded.
Yeah, it was. I mean, yeah, he doesn't make a nation of addicted kids in the Sarah Jane Adventures. Thankfully, he does actually, just without them losing their brains in the same way. But it is an idea he does go back to.
The idea of a diet drink that's addictive and you have to keep taking, okay, that makes perfect sense. But the guys were all getting their stuff for free.
Maybe they're influencers.
Yeah. Well, it's because it was through the Felonian flicker that the dispenser somehow appeared of it, I guess.
And then
space dispenser. Yeah.
Yep, there's the actual plot device again. It's
Oh yeah, and no, as much as I said I found his writing okay and flows quite easily and easy to read, there was one trick of writing that kind of annoyed me eventually, which was, there was an example of, I think, on page 80 where it was like, as it would happen to be and turn out to be, and it would essentially foretell what is going to happen with a line by like, oh, little did he know, da 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 da, and it's used a few times throughout it, in terms of, like, say, a Trelawney getting injured. I think Benny at one point. I think someone else. It's like, why? Like, it feels quite sort of ironically foreshowing within the book, like some like 1950s, cheap TV, like pulpy sort of like dialogue to say like, oh, little did they know that this would actually be that, and yeah, it's bridging that bit too far of someone who enjoys that style of things from the old times and from their childhood to then literally put it in these novels and to newer people and younger people who are like, why is he writing that in such a cheesy way? Like, yeah, it was a very minor gripe, but it's just a little gripe that was threaded through, and I did want to highlight that one. But yeah, I guess, did anyone have any other notes about it? Because it's the overall thing is that it's fine. I find it fine. I enjoyed the Doctor and Benny, but out with that, there's not a lot to it.
Well, as I was saying to you the other night, it's just extra medium.
Yeah.
If it was genuinely terrible, you could talk about it because you can make fun of it, but it's not terrible and it's not good. It's just
there. It's just there. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I mean, that's exactly, last episode was on transit and it lasted, I think, about 90 minutes odd, because as bad as it could have been in that book sometimes, there was some good ideas. There were some cracking ideas floating about. This is a fine idea, and it's delivered finely. And if you feel perhaps, I think as a positive, that if you feel that a lot of these books can be dark and dingy and the Doctor goes too far or it's written in too rude a way or whatever, this one is not. This one is maybe not fluffy, but it is a solid romp that can cleanse the palate perhaps, and so that's what I would say if you need something like that when you're reading these books. This can be one of them.
It does have a feel of a mid-season filler episode.
Yes, very much, which I know that guy went on to do many of. Oh, sorry, I said his name. Oh,
You said it earlier, but I didn't want to pick you out on it.
Oh no, I'll need to get the cloister bell out for that. Whoops. Anyway, on that note, I think we got some comments from people.
Yeah.
I would say, to be honest, this is the least commented book I think we've had so far, which might be telling of the book and its enjoyment within the citadel of fandom. But yeah, so Alasdair, I don't know if you wanted to just kick us off with what you had on Facebook.
Yep. Let's see. We've got Marie Vaughan. I liked it, but absolutely terrible character names.
Mm-hmm.
Jay Millhouse. Enjoyed it at the time. The TV episode partially inspired by it, not so much, though there wasn't much resemblance by that point. The dangling plot thread that didn't get resolved until 1996 was odd.
Okay.
Dave Carzoli was, I remember liking it. That's all I can remember though. LOL. Samantha Rennie Sartono. One of my all-time favourite Doctor Who stories. And finally, we've said this before, it's every story is someone's favourite. And
exactly.
I'm not going to comment further than that. People enjoy what people enjoy. Time in the Rani.
I have a very good friend who loves the twin dilemma, so you know.
And finally, we've got our very own Neil Cameron with I love this novel. The Colorians were a great addition. Benny was very good in this too. So yeah.
There we are. That's lovely. I had some folk on Twitter. I had the Herald of Creation, who was making those lovely Virgin New Adventure rankings, and they said that this story placed 18th out of the 61 on their rankings, which was a public vote thing that they were doing. So that's interesting to see where it is in fandom. They also said, I think it is the first book that feels like a standalone novel with a conventional narrative. Paved the way for some more accomplished books from the same author. So we'll see how that goes. Oscar Gaucho said, Douglas Adams' novel recited from memory at 1.5 speed with a wit that springs from the page. The frantic energy can sometimes mean ideas that would be explored in later books are sketched briefly and placed aside. Nevertheless, a bold debut in achingly 1990s. The wilderness. Ben said, all opinions are based on a 20-year-old me reading it 20-ish years ago, but I remember really enjoying it. I remember political allegories and frustrations, and I really remember the ending, which haunted me for years. I can't believe that we never went back to tidy up that mess. Now, the political allegories. Now, you know, being a politician, I didn't pick up any political allegories. Maybe except from the horror planet and like the industrial war complex. But that's an idea before the time of this novel, I thought. At least.
Maybe
But yeah.
Clifton Roisin bankrupting a whole economy. Maybe a capitalism metaphor, I guess.
Maybe.
Yeah, Interstellar Song Contest. It was very subtle, but I think they had a bit of a political message they wanted to go over. It went over a lot of people's heads. You had to look at it really closely.
If you do have any political allegories at home, please do write to us and tell us what the political allegories are.
Answers on a postcard, please.
Yeah.
Not included. Everyone else can write in. And talking of, I guess, we have Alex Wilcock as well, who finally said, mostly seemed quite fun at the time. Then an unbelievably rotten ending. But enough about the offer.
Ooh.
Thank you very much, Alex, for that. So, on that note, that brings us to the end of this podcast. It's been a good time to actually, I guess, talk about. No one else does. So, at least someone has. And, you know, there's more to come.
Yes.
So, yes. Ross, thank you very much again for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Now, very, very well known within the Glasgow Doctor Who Society, you cannot be found online. You are not even a digital nomad like we've had in transit when the Doctor entered the cyberspace network. Oh no, that was that? Alasdair, which one was he sailing the cyber seas?
That was Transit. That was the Flying Dutchman.
That was transit. God, there's too much cyberspace in these one.
It was the 90s.
But yes, either way, Ross cannot be found either on cyberspace nor sailing those seas online. You can find them in the pub at the Glasgow Doctor Who Society, or
Well, I am part of my friend's podcast.
yes. So where can we find that podcast?
Mainly on YouTube at the moment, but it's called Lucy's Insane Doctor Who Theories. It's my friend Lucy explaining her less than sane Doctor Who theories and me trying to rebuff them.
That sounds like a very
The
good
biggest
idea.
one is that Susan is the big bad of the entire show. She's behind every single villain.
Well, you never know. We've got Wishworld round the corner. The wish could come true to have Susan be the big bad. You never know.
Well, in our next episode, we'll be watching and reviewing Zygon themed pornography.
Oh God, not that BBV thing. Oh
Yeah.
God, right? Yeah, enjoy that.
I suspect we won't.
Yeah. Anyway, at least Bill Baggs isn't a transphobe to my knowledge. On that note, Alasdair, thanks as always for joining,
Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
and we look forward to hearing from you all soon. Thanks for listening to another episode of Too Broad and Too Deep. You can get in touch with us on social media at Too Broad Too Deep Pod, that's with the number 2, on Blue Sky, Twitter and Instagram. You can also contact our Facebook page, Doctor Who, Too Broad and Too Deep Podcast, and that's with the word 2. Or you can email us at toobroadtoodeeppod@gmail.com, and that's also with the word TOO. Hope to hear from you soon.